Hey guys, welcome back to Junk Wax America. We're into the third and final part of the 1984 Topps Tigers team set, and kicking off with Chet Lemon. Chet was acquired from the White Sox in 1981 in what was really a blockbuster trade for Steve Kemp going the other way to Comiskey. And this guy for me is just an underrated star of the 80s. I mean, 84 in particular was really his crowning year in Detroit, not just team-wise, but personally. In terms of value to the team, he was probably second, only to Trammell on the 84 team. This guy had a career year in Detroit. He shared the team lead with 60 extra base hits, which is just phenomenal for a center fielder. And he was rewarded with his third All-Star game appearance in 1984. He did struggle in the postseason. In 32 plate appearances, he only managed to collect 5 singles and 2 walks, but he came up big in crucial times. For instance, he scored the game-winning run in Game 3 of the ALCS, and sent the Tigers to the World Series. And then in the World Series, in the very pivotal Game 3, as the Padres were mounting a comeback in the 8th inning, Lemon made a really sensational over-the-head catch backing up in deep left center of Tiger Stadium to squelch the rally and to seal Game 3 for the Tigers. And like I said, it was a pivotal game. The series was tied 1-1, and so real important defensive play turned in by Chet in Game 3. Altogether, he spent 9 seasons in Detroit, so had quite a good run, and honestly has to be looked at as one of the great players in the organization's history. So key part of the '84 team and key part of the entire era for Detroit. Lance Parrish, big wheel. Parrish was really, I mean, you want to talk about being solid 1 through 9 and really a deep lineup. Parrish was really probably the Tigers' one legit slugger home run threat going into the 84 season. Nobody actually hit more than 35 home runs. They did not have a 35 home run guy in 84. However, Parrish did lead the team with a career high 33 home runs from the cleanup spot, and that was really his big contribution from the plate. I mean, he really struggled to get on base in 84, and was not a career for him offense wise, but did manage to contribute with the home runs. This guy was really a legit established star going into the 84 season. I mean, he was a star catcher, and another one of the Tigers' first-round draft picks. They got him in the 74 amateur draft, so again, really speaks to how well the Tigers drafted in the 70s, and really from a personal accolades standpoint, had a tremendous 84 season. All-star, as we mentioned before, Silver Slugger, Gold Glove. He was 16th in the AL MVP voting, so great year for Lance. He also had a pretty decent postseason. He homered twice, drove in 5 runs, and so really had, in the end, a good season, obviously capped off by the World Series victory. And he ended up leaving the Tigers only 2 seasons later after the 86 season. It was his 10th in Detroit, and he moved on. But just recently he was named manager of the Erie Seawolves, so he's back in the organization, which is always great to see, and it's good to have one of the heroes of 1984 back in the fold. This is a great card. I really like this batting and pitching leaders card. I mean, obviously, they've got default players on here based on batting average and ERA, but these were really the Tigers' two best players, well, best position player and best pitcher from 1983, both of them having really sensational years for the Tigers, and dipped a little bit in 84, but they won't mind because they got rings. But really like this card. Happy, really pleased with the PSA 9 that I got on these. 83 was really a great season for the Tigers. I mean, they won 92 games. They finished second in the division behind Baltimore, who eventually won the World Series, and they were actually leading the American League East by 1 game on August 13th, so they were right in the thick of things at the business end of the season, and unfortunately went 27-21 down the stretch to see it kind of slip away from them, and finished eventually 6 games back of Baltimore. But they were really a great team in 83 and carried that momentum straight into the following season. So here's Lou himself, and Lou, another draftee, 5th round in 1975 by the Tigers. This guy really, for me, is one of the all-time great second basemen, and it's really criminal how overlooked he's been, or he was, by the Hall of Fame voters. At this point, he's completely dropped off the ballot and did so rather quickly. So, real unfortunate to see that sort of snub happen to Lou, because I mean, for 19 seasons, this guy was really as good as it gets at second base. And in fact, if you compare him to other Tigers all time, he's actually 4th in WAR behind Cobb, Kaline, and Gehringer. So that just tells you how phenomenal this guy's career was in Detroit. I mean, just he's up there with some pretty esteemed company. Player of the Year in 83, as I mentioned before, he had a sensational year, and he won the Player of the Year for the Tigers. And another great year in 84, and capped it off with a real good World Series as the table setter at the top of the lineup. Reached base 9 times, scored 6 runs, and helped the Tigers win it all. As I said before, 19 seasons with one organization is just almost unheard of these days, and Whitaker is definitely one of the legends in club history, and a guy who's really ought to get a statue at some point. Lynn Jones is another interesting character. Along with Krenchicki, this is the one other guy, I should say, who on January 1st of 1984 was a member of an entirely different organization. So his inclusion in the 84 team set is a little bit of an oddity from that standpoint. The Tigers picked him up from the Reds in the Rule 5 draft in 1979, and he played the next 5 seasons in Detroit, all across the outfield, and was really known for being a glove guy. Had a good arm too, but really known for his defensive capabilities. To say he did not hit for power is the understatement of the century. I mean, this guy had 0 power, essentially. In 645 at-bats in Detroit, he had 30 extra base hits. So almost incredible how little power the guy had as an outfielder. But, he is a glove man, so he had a spot in the squad. The Tigers offered him a minor league deal coming out of the 83 seasons, and season and wanted to keep him in the fold, but he wasn't happy with the offer, and a little bit of acrimonious sniping in the media between Jones and Bill LaJoy and Sparky about his perceived value to the team or lack thereof. He eventually got what he wanted because Kansas City signed him to a major league deal in December of 83. And so although he wasn't a part of the 84 World Series team, he got a fairly decent consolation, because certainly Kansas City had a great team in 84 as well. Maybe not a great team, but a good team, and a team that was 3 wins away from the World Series. But at any rate, he actually singled and scored off Willie Hernandez in Game 2 of the ALCS, which is no mean feat. So he got a little bit of personal revenge back on the Tigers, but certainly the Tigers got the last laugh that season. Following season was a different story, and Jones was part of the Kansas City team that won the World Series in 85. So certainly an interesting little career path in the early to mid 80s for Lynn Jones. So now we're getting into the Topps traded, 1984 Topps traded. So these would be the traded would obviously include rookies and players who came over to different teams early in the season or mid-season. Dave Bergman is the first Tiger in this series, and of course we've talked a lot about the end of spring training trade that brought Bergman and Hernandez over to the Tigers. Bergman was coming off a great season. I mean, he was in San Francisco in 83, had always been known as a good glove man over there at first base, but had a great offensive season too. He had a OPS plus of 139 in San Francisco, so he was kind of the total package in 83. Certainly looked to be an upgrade over the first base situation that the Tigers had the previous season, and kind of got out. He spent essentially a day or a few hours in Philadelphia, and then they spun him over to the Tigers as part of the Hernandez deal. But he kind of started slowly in 84. Took a while to adjust to life in the American League, but he really became a real capable member of the squad. Appeared in 120 games, so saw a lot of action and hit a career high 7 home runs at Tiger Stadium. So 6 of those home runs, probably hard to really recall in the collective consciousness, but there's one that sticks out, and that's his famous 13 pitch at bat in the bottom of the 10th inning against Roy Lee Jackson of the Blue Jays. So the Tigers obviously got off to a hot start and led wire to wire. However, they did struggle a little bit mid-season, and the Jays were kind of snapping at their heels there for a while. There was a pivotal series at Tiger Stadium in June, and the Blue Jays took the Tigers to extras, and Bergman got a full count, 2 on, 2 out, and was just battling Jackson, fouling off pitch after pitch, and finally deposited the 13th pitch into the upper deck in right field. So huge walk-off home run, and Sparky eventually called that the best at-bat he'd ever seen. So another little chapter in the 84 season. He did go hitless in 5 at-bats in the World Series, so didn't have quite the impact in the World Series. 85 was a real difficult season for him. He battled injuries and only hit 179, so really kind of a horror season for Bergman. But he really did become a dependable player on the Tigers for 9 seasons. And all the way into the early 90s, Bergman stuck around and was really a guy who was a good servant to the club, and someone who I really enjoyed following. So he retired after the 92 seasons and 92 season with Detroit, and finished out a Tiger. Next we have one of Dave Bergman's 1983 teammates in San Francisco, Darrell Evans. So Tigers eventually brought over both of the kind of corner infield men from San Francisco, their 83 team. And Evans was really your prototypical veteran, 30 home run a year guy, 83 All-Star. So this guy was a legitimate power hitter, an established guy that the Tigers really thought could put him over the hump and upgrade at the corner infield position. He was really probably their first ever big free agent signing. I mean, as we've seen, the Tigers really built through the draft and did so very successfully, and this was the first guy that they made a big splash in the free agent market with. So he signed with the team in December of '83. He had other offers on the table, quite a number of them actually, and had a serious offer, one that paid him more, to join the Yankees, but he really wanted to have a chance to win a title, so he chose the Tigers over the Yankees, which is always an endearing quality. So '84, he primarily DH'd, but spent time at both corner infield positions and ended up hitting 16 home runs, which I think was a little bit of a disappointment to a lot of folks within the organization who thought that he would contribute a little more. But it took him a little while to get up to speed with American League pitching. Wasn't long though, and in '85 he hit 40 home runs for the Tigers. This was a guy in his late 30s, and he really sort of had a renaissance in Detroit. Spent 5 seasons with the team, including another outstanding campaign in '87 where the Tigers won the American League East. Had a great team that season, and he finished 12th in the AL MVP voting that season at age 40, so was really a key part of the team for several years to come, even in his advanced age, and also notable for being one of the few Tigers that did not wear a mustache this season. Barbaro Garcia is definitely another guy with a real interesting story. This guy was the first member of the Cuban national baseball team to defect to the U.S., and he came over on the Mariel boat lift in 1980, so pretty high-profile defection. The Tigers signed him up in June of 1980, and along the way in the minor league system, he was managed by none other than Jim Leland at Evansville, and while he was there in 1983, he hit .321 and 14 home runs, so a real solid 1983 season at the AAA level. Now, he was 26, so he was already sort of in his or entering his prime as a hitter. But he made his big league debut the following season on opening day and never went back down to the minors that season. He was with the big club for the entirety of 1984, mainly featuring at first base, but he actually got a spell everywhere else on the diamond at one point or another in '84, apart from shortstop, catcher, and pitcher. So really pretty impressive versatility defensively. He started out on a tear, and he went into May of '84 with a .444 batting average. So really rode the wave, as did a lot of these Tigers with the hot start, and propelled the Tigers to that 35-5 start. He did tail off, of course, but like I said before, he did spend the entire year in the bigs, and he featured in 110 games, so not bad. World Series wasn't too kind for him. He went 0 for 12, didn't get a hit, and really struggled again in '85. Was not able to be the contributor that he was the season prior, and then the Tigers then traded him to Oakland. His last appearance in the bigs was in 1988 with Texas, and then kind of his career petered out to some extent in the Mexican League, so never really fulfilled the high profile that he once had as a defector, but certainly an interesting part of the '84 team. Willie Hernandez is a guy who obviously was, his '84 season is as celebrated as any Tiger season in recent history, if you can call 30 years ago recent, and rightly so. I mean, this guy was putting up really PlayStation type numbers for the Tigers, and was seen, I think, with a lot of justification as being the one piece that put them over the top and got them the world championship that they craved. The Tigers nearly traded, actually, Glenn Wilson for a left-handed reliever named Tim Conroy in the Oakland organization. That trade didn't come off, and so they eventually came back around to Willie Hernandez. It's a good thing they did, too, because although I think the organization was excited about how Hernandez might contribute, he was a part of the '83 pennant-winning team in Philadelphia. I don't think anybody anticipated the kind of season he'd have in '84. 1.92 ERA, struck out 112 batters and 140 innings pitched, held hitters to a 194 batting average. I mean, like I said, just PlayStation type numbers. The thing that sticks out as a guy who was predominantly a closer, at least in the second half of the season, is that he averaged almost 2 innings pitched per appearance, which is nothing like how we treat modern closers, but really shows the versatility of guys like him in his era. And you know, he'd come in the 6th inning sometimes, 7th inning, to finish out the game. So really was able to contribute a lot more than maybe a modern closer would. Initially, he was really the setup man for Aurelio Lopez early in the season, but after April, I mean, he just took off. He had sub 1.50 ERAs in May, June, July, and September. So this guy was just lights out in the latter half of the season. And eventually just had just swept all of the honors in the American League: All-Star, Cy Young Award, AL MVP. For a relief pitcher, that kind of thing is unheard of, obviously, or almost unheard of. And so really a historic season for Hernandez. And then he capped it off with a great postseason: 9.1 innings, 9 1/3 innings pitched, and a sub 2 ERA. So fantastic postseason to cap it all off. And you know, he got some stick from Tigers fans in latter seasons for never really living up to the '84 Willie Hernandez, but he was still a great pitcher. I mean, he made All-Star games in '85 and '86, and you know, for over the course of 6 seasons in Detroit, he posted an ERA plus of 135. So, you know, a real excellent relief pitcher when you take the sum total of his Tigers career, and a guy who will live long in the memory. Next up is Rupert Jones, and Roop, as he was known, is another interesting member of the '84 squad. The Tigers signed him in April of '84, so he did not break camp with the team, but he had kind of been bouncing around the big leagues for 8 seasons, and the Tigers needed and wanted some outfield depth and a little bit of power. And so they signed him in April. He spent a couple months in Evansville, and they called him up on June 6th. Actually, the guy who made way for Rupert Jones was none other than Rod Allen. So Rod Allen went the other way to Evansville, and Rupert never really looked back. He had a big game-winning 3-run homer against the Jays after he was called up, and became something of a fan favorite. Platooned mainly with Larry Herndon in left field, and ended up hitting 12 home runs and slugged .516. So really, really a big important bat there on the left side of the plate. He didn't do so well in the World Series. He went 0 for 8, so Herndon outshone him in that particular aspect. But a big part of the Tigers '84 team, he really annoyed Sparky and LaJoie, though, after the '84 season when he turned down a contract and became a free agent. Their feeling was that they had sort of pulled Jones out of the wilderness to some degree, and he had found a place where he could be productive and appreciated, and he turned down their contract offer in '84. He played 3 more big league seasons with the Angels, and then retired after a stint in Japan and 2 years in Texas's minor league system. But another key role player in the '84 team. Rusty Kuntz, another interesting guy. So Kuntz came over in December of '83 from Minnesota. To some degree, maybe he fulfilled the Lynn Jones role because he was kind of the defensive specialist in the outfield. There was really no expectations of him making contributions with his bat going into '84, but he actually had a career year, as a lot of these guys did for whatever reason. Even some of these fringe guys clicked in '84 and really made some terrific contributions to the team. So he posted an .807 OPS in 168 plate appearances, so not shabby at all as a role player. They did option Kuntz to Evansville on August 6th to make way for Carl Willis, who was a right-handed arm. When they were desperate, they had like a string of double headers there in August where they were just really lean on starting pitching, and so they had to sacrifice Kuntz for an extra pitcher, and he was really busted up about the move, but he ended up being recalled 10 days later, and actually ended up appearing in 84 games in 1984. So he did make an impact in the postseason. Again, maybe a hero is probably going too far, but an unlikely contributor for certain. Game 5 of the World Series, he hit a sac fly in the 5th inning to give the Tigers a lead, and they would never relinquish that lead. So a big RBI in a crucial game, and the Tigers kept him on the roster and carried him into 1985, but went hitless in 5 at-bats in '85 and was really sort of moved aside. The Tigers sent him down to Nashville in April of that season, and that was his final season in professional baseball. So a last sort of hurrah for Rusty Kuntz in 1984, and certainly a memorable season, and now Kuntz is actually still in baseball. He's the first base coach for Kansas City, so still around and part of a major league organization. So our final card for the 1984 Topps team set is Sid Mange, and Sid Mange is a guy who sort of, to some degree, had a fairly innocuous '84 season for certain. He didn't come over to the Tigers until June of '84 from the Padres, no less. So he came over from the organization that the Tigers later faced in the World Series. Again, the Tigers were just trying to make things click in terms of getting some more lefty arms and to support Hernandez, and so Mange got the call. Now, before lefty specialists, these guys, these left-handers were expected to get right-handed batters and left-handed batters out, and so Mange, again, very similar to Hernandez and the other bullpen arms, he was averaging about 2 innings pitched per appearance. He wasn't coming in just to get a tough lefty out. He was in there to get multiple batters out, and as a result, 89 of the 159 batters he faced were right-handed, and they posted an 805 OPS against him. So he wasn't terribly effective. Again, pre-lefty specialist, he was expected to get righties out and didn't do a real good job at doing that. He was eventually left off the postseason roster altogether because later that summer the Tigers brought along Bill Scher as a lefty arm who was a little more effective than Mange and ended up being that second lefty in the bullpen that Sparky went to. So he obviously never appeared in the postseason. He came back to the Tigers on a minor league deal in '85, but he never did crack the bigs again with the team. He did reasonably well actually in Nashville that year, and then the Tigers traded him to the Pirates organization, and he finished out his pro career at the Pirates AAA affiliate in Hawaii, which is not a bad place to end your baseball career, I suppose. So that's it for the '84 Topps team set. I hope everybody enjoyed going through a little piece of Detroit Tigers history. Notable absentees from this set is probably Bill Scher. I mean, as I said before, he came over and was really a kind of an important part of that bullpen down the stretch, but really joined late in the season, and probably not in time for the last Topps traded series. The real notable absentee from the set is Howard Johnson, who was really the Tigers' everyday third baseman for most of the season. He actually was 9th in games played for the Tigers that year, so kind of strange that he never got a card in the '84 Topps set, but at any rate, hope everybody's enjoyed these videos, and stay tuned for more from my collection and more baseball history. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.